Hello, I'm Steve Barham. I'm Happiness Today on Twitter, and for happiness is no charge. I'm an emotional researcher, and I discovered a technique that stops negative emotions, and I have negative emotions, and I've done the technique even today. But we're not here for that. We're here for shame. Do you struggle with shame? I had a cat growing up, and one day he'd been in a fight and he was getting infected, and I took him to the vet, and it turned out I didn't bring him home. And so I had a lot of shame, blame, guilt, and grief. All together, all balled up together. And so, shame, what I work with is called emotional charge. As emotions continue and continue and continue, they build up what they call emotional charge. Okay? Bottled up emotions is what that means. Emotion means energy in motion, and motion is an action, and action is energy, so energy in motion. Emotion. You're dealing with an energy, a pressurized energy that is bottled up. Okay? And so what the technique I discovered does is release this. It gets at this, and it gets at this directly. In other words, we don't work with the symptom so much as we do with the emotion itself. Okay? So we target that emotion. Okay? We target shame. What is that? We look at it just as it is. That is shame. Okay? That's the first step of the technique. Psychology supports this first step in naming it. Okay? Emotional charge, as a part of emotional work, is a part of psychology. So psychology actually supports emotional charge as a term. It's in the psychology dictionary. Okay? So step 2 is we address this emotional energy, as it's called, this emotional charge thing. And this is easy. This is step 2, and it's easy. Okay? Step 3 is actually doing the technique. Okay? And in a little while, it is noticed that that emotion reduces. It gets less. Okay, and it gets less, and it can even stop. This is observable results. It's kind of like a scale. You have a scale here with your happiness on it. Okay, and this negative thing happens, 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 and pretty soon that happiness is down here at the bottom of the scale. There's a ton of weight on it. Okay. Well, we do the technique and do the technique and do the technique. We're taking a little weight off, and a little more 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 weight off, and the happiness rises and rises and rises and rises and rises. So we reduce. So if you have trouble creating positive emotions, how about we do the opposite? We take down and reduce the negative emotions. I had a friend, lives in Utah. He got my technique. He's a social worker, and he's an expert in cognitive behavioral therapy. And so he got my technique, and he was moving his family. He had a worry. Okay? But he doesn't do the technique on what he is worried about, the situation he is worried about. It doesn't cut himself off from the worry. He does the technique directly on that worry, on worry. He does the technique on worry itself. Okay? And the emotional charge of that worry. Okay? He said in a few minutes, that just went away, and he just started thinking of more positive things. In other words, it stopped bothering him. Okay? Wouldn't it be nice to have shame stop bothering a person? Okay? So what we do is we reduce the shame, reduce the shame, reduce the shame, reduce the shame, and the happiness level comes up naturally. We are not rewiring the brain, okay, with new responses and this, that, and the other thing type of therapy. We are simply reducing the emotional effect on us. There was a cause, and it gave us this emotional load. Okay? And that load is termed the charge. Just like the bullet load, the gunpowder load in a bullet, it's called the charge. Okay? And so we get at this charge, we get at the emotion, we reduce that negativity, and the positivity simply rises up naturally. We don't have to really do another thing. I had an episode before I came out here. Okay? Oh man. I was starting down into a breakdown crying fit. I did my technique. Okay? It worked. Didn't take too long. Okay? I'm called Happiness Today on Twitter because today we can have a little more happiness, because we can take this down today. This doesn't take months and 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 months of work to have some benefit. We can have some benefit, some betterment today. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be ecstasy, in a minute, okay? But if this negativity can go down in a couple of minutes, and we're talking a couple of minutes even for full-blown torment, okay? I was in an episode of full-blown torment. It took only 4 minutes of the technique. And I was out of that torment. I'm back to being a happy camper. It's amazing. It's back in 2013-ish. I bought a tablet. So anyway, with shame, we would look right at the shame. We would call it that. We already know what it is. We name it. Okay? We already have a name for it, right? Shame. Okay? And so then we would address this emotional charge of the shame, and we would do the technique on that, and it would reduce. Okay? Sometimes it can be very rapid. Sometimes it can take a little longer. I don't expect miracles overnight. But sometimes it can be very, very rapid. We are talking minutes, not even hours sometimes. Excruciating shock of a broken wrist generally takes 72 to 80 hours to get out of. My doctor tells me, because I broke my left wrist in a car accident. I did the technique on the shock. Okay, I addressed the energy of the shock. Okay, the emotional charge of the shock, even though it was a physical thing. Okay, it affected me emotionally. Okay, 8 hours. Off and on of doing the technique between talking to my insurance company and going to the ER, etc., etc. I was doing the technique when I wasn't doing anything else. Okay, and so it only took 8 hours. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning when I got back from the ER, and my arm is up in a splint and everything. I'm trying to get to sleep in the recliner, And I do the technique and do the technique on the shock. In about an hour, this was the 8th hour, around 5 o'clock a.m., my mind just kind of cleared up. It just kind of lifted and cleared up, and I go, oh, it's gone. The shock is gone. I went right. I think I can get to sleep now. You know, this is before I got painkillers. I didn't get the painkillers till later that day. Okay, so I got to sleep. I slept for about 5 hours. I got up. I was able to do what I needed to do. Okay. So if shame is a barrier to you, and you can reduce that shame and your happiness levels come up, that barrier can be removed and you can move forward with your life a little better. And you can have that benefit a little bit today, a little bit more tomorrow, a little bit more the next day if needed and stuff. I had fear of going up a ladder. I'd have a shooting shock run down through my body into my legs, and I couldn't get up on the roof. So I come down all in a huff, and I do the technique for about 15-20 minutes. It's gone. Next day I went up on the roof. No problem. Not even a twinge of fear. I can go up on the roof right now. No twinge of fear. I have a video on it. Maybe I'll leave a link. So anyway, I wrote up everything I know about emotions and emotional charge and how to do the technique on every negative emotion and emotional state. So from pressure to stress to anxiety from flashbacks and panic attacks to hysteria episodes to depression episodes and crying fits and tantrums, anger tantrums. I have horrible anger sometimes. Oh boy. So anyway, I do the technique and it helps with that, and it helps with my suicidal issues, despondency, despair, and desperation. That's stress. That's heavy stress. That's a heavy load. It's a heavy emotional charge. And that's what we're really dealing with. So I wrote up all of my work in a book called Happiness is No Charge. This is the second book. And Target Your Emotions. Okay. And so I'll leave off there for today. Thank you very much. If you're struggling with shame, target your shame. We can get at it. You can get at it. It doesn't take very long. So I'm Steve Barham. I'm Happiness Today on Twitter. For Happiness is No Charge. Please check out my work. And bless you and have a good day. Be well, be happy, because happiness is no charge. The lack of negative emotions. When I was studying in the 70s, charge meant negativity or negative emotions. See you later. Take care.